Welcome back guys to another Android development tutorial. In this lesson we're going to learn how to create a custom dialog fragment by creating a simple test application. So let's see what we're going to create. We're going to have in our main activity a simple button that's going to listen for clicks, and when clicking on it, it's going to open the dialog fragment that's going to have two edit text and a button. The first one is for username and the second one is for password. So let's give it a username. Let's for instance say Daniel, and the password is going to be 126. When clicking the submit button, the credential we gave in the dialog fragment are going to pass through a listener, which is an interface to the main activity. Click and submit, and we see the credentials being toasted from the main activity. So let's get started. Okay guys, the first thing we need to do is to create our custom dialog fragment. So let's go to our package and create a new class which we're going to call custom dialog fragment, which is going to extend the dialog fragment class. In here we're going to implement three core methods that we extended from the dialog fragment class. The first one is onCreateView. The second one is onViewCreated, and the last one is going to be onAttach. So let's start with the onCreateView. The onCreateView method is going to return a view which is the inflated layout that we want to display in our dialog fragment. Okay, so let's return a layout inflator from getActivity.inflate r.layout custom dialog fragment custom, which is this method is going to basically inflate the dialog fragment custom layout and going to display it in the dialog fragment. Now as you can see, we get a compilation error because we haven't created the dialog fragment custom layout yet. So let's create it. I'm going to use constraint layout, but you can easily replace it with anything else that you want, especially linear layout or relative layout, whatever you feel most comfortable with. In this case, I suggest if you don't know how to use constraint layout, to use linear layout. So the first thing we're going to do is to create our edit text. I'm not really going to explain what I'm going to do here with the layout because it doesn't really matter. The focus of this tutorial is about dialog fragments. So top to top parent, end to end parent, start to start parent, hint username, id.txt username. That's it. Let's just copy it, paste it here. Let's change it to txt password. Let's give it an input type of password. Here we'll give it an input type of person name. Let's change it to password. Alright, top to bottom of txt username, and to end parent, start to start parent, bottom to top of txt password. Let's create our button, 0dp wrap content. Let's call it btn submit. Let's give it a top to bottom of txt password and to end of parent, start to start of parent, and that's it. Bottom to top of btn submit. Let's give it a text of submit. Alright guys, that's pretty much it. Just a simple layout with two edit text and a button. Let's go back to our custom dialog fragment and let's create two class variables. The first one is going to be an edit text. We need two of them, one for the username and the second one for the password. You know what, actually that's going to be fine. In our onViewCreated, which is a method that's getting called after the onCreateView has returned its view. Alright? The onCreateView is getting called, it returns a view, and the view that we get here as a parameter in the onViewCreated is the view we returned here. Right? Just for best practice, you should initialize all your views in the onViewCreated method, because then you can be sure that the view is properly created. Right? Simple enough. So txt find your body, txt username. Let's do the same for the password. Txt password. Now we don't have to save a pointer to the button. We can just find it, btn submit, and add a set, you might say, a click listener for it. Right? New on click listener. That's it. Now I'm going to take the username, right, and the password from the edit text. Okay, so now that I have both the username and the password, I want to pass it from the dialog fragment to the main activity. Now, how am I going to do it? Pretty easy. I'm going to create an interface, right? So let's create an interface and let's call it custom dialog listener, which is going to be an interface, and it's going to have one method which is going to be called submitted information, which is going to take a username string and a password string. Right? Now we want our main activity to implement this interface and override its method. Right? And we want in our onAttach, first of all, we need to create a field of the custom dialog listener, and then we want in our onAttach to set the custom dialog listener to the context. Now, for those of you who doesn't know, the onAttach is the first method that's getting called in a fragment lifecycle, and the context that is being passed is the context to the activity that has launched that fragment. In our case, it's going to be the main activity. Therefore, this context is a reference to this main activity, right? So just for best practice, we're going to put it in try and catch. Obviously, we don't need it because we're not going to get any errors, but still for best practice, let's just do it. And the catch is going to be class cast exception. And let's just print the stack trace. That's it. So now, what we're going to do in our onClick listener is we're going to check whether the username is empty and whether the password is empty. As you can see, if both of them are not empty, what I want to do is first of all pass the username and the password and dismiss. Now the dismiss method is going to close the dialog fragment. Now in the main activity, all I want to do is the username plus the password. Now for the main activity, let's just create a button, top to top parent, end to end parent, bottom to bottom parent, start to start parent, text open dialog, id btn open dialog. Right? When this button is going to get called, all I want to do is create a new instance of of our custom dialog fragment and show it. Right? Now I remember that I forgot a very important thing, which is to add a main width. Right? So let's see what we get. Okay, now we can see that our app is launched and we can see the button. So let's click it. We can see our dialog fragment. Let's pass Daniel. Let's give it again a password from 1. You know what? Let's just make it a big password. Let's submit it. And as you can see, we see the information passed from the dialog fragment, our custom dialog fragment that we created, to the main activity. Okay, now it's for you guys to create really cool new things, right? This is just the basics, the core basics of how to create a custom dialog fragment, right? You can create really amazing, incredible things by those simple notions, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and a comment if you liked it, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.